Hey, what's up everyone? So today we are taking an in-depth look of the Carbide Create. This can be downloaded off the Shapeoko website. This allows you to take pictures and export them into the software so you can do your carving. You can actually make your own carvings. You can do clamps, you can do parts, you can do pictures, you can do just about everything you want to do in this other than 3D work. Now this program again is free. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the stock sizes, the thickness, how to set up your programs. And then once we do that, we'll take a look at designs and some of the other features we can do. We're going to look at some of the speeds, the feeds, toolpaths, all that fun stuff. We're going to try to go a little bit more in depth than what I was able to find online because I had a lot of questions that I was not able to get answers to. And we're going to see if we can do that for you right now. So let's take a look at the first option here, this little gear. This is basically how you're setting your material up. So if you can see this, this is the stock or the material that you're going to be using, so your piece of wood. If we wanted to, we can change this, and you don't want to go more than 32 by 32 on the XXL. That's what we're using now, the Shapeoko XXL. You can change that simply by going down here to find your machine, the Shapeoko 3, the Shapeoko XL, the Shapeoko XXL, or the Nomad 883. So that is how you would switch it. Once you go to whatever you use, just click on it and it should stay there for the remainder. Every time you go to open this, it'll be there. All right, but back to our stock. Now we have it set up for 10 by 10. Say that we want to go, I don't know, the width, we'll go 15 inches, and then we wanted the height at, I don't know, 7 inches. That's all we had to do is come down, hit OK, and now you can see it will adjust it automatically. If we wanted to change that, and we could change it to just about anything we wanted to, as long as it stays within the 32 by 32 inch. Just hit OK. You can see that scrolls out. It made it nice and longer. We'll go back. We're going to keep this though. I think the 10 by 10 was a pretty good option. Just like so. Hit OK. That's your 10 by 10. And then the stock thickness. How thick is your material? So usually you can go from the bottom or the top. We're always pretty much going to go from the top. Stock thickness, we're looking at 1/2 inch. If I wanted to turn it into 1 inch, you just would hit the 1. If I wanted 3/4, I would just hit 0.75. And that will give me my stock thickness. And you see it doesn't really change all that much there, but you are changing that thickness because once you zero this machine out, which I'll show you how to do in a bit, well, it has to know how deep you're going to go. So where do we want to start our toolpath? And basically what that means is, where is the router going to start cutting from? We wanted to start cutting down here, which is basically where I usually start. Sometimes I will start in the middle, but we can change that. So we can go to center left. I'll just hit OK, and it'll start right here. That's basically where you're going to zero it out. If I go to top left, hit OK, you can see it would start right here. And that's where you would have to set your 0. And then I can go center right here. So I usually always start my piece right here. That's where I usually zero it out. And then sometimes, depending on what I am doing, I will start in the center. So that is how you would actually go and adjust that. Material right here, soft wood, so that would be pine. If we wanted to do MDF, we could do that. Hardwood, such as maple, maybe oak, we can do that. You have aluminum, composite panel, plastics, acrylic, aluminum metal, brass, steel, titanium. So you have a bunch of different options here. We'll go MDF. All right, so now that we got our MDF, we can switch these from millimeter, watch this, or we can go from inches. The millimeter is nice when you're really trying to get detail. The inches is basically like a ballpark. You can get pretty precise with the inches, but sometimes I will switch over to millimeter, and you can do that at any time during the creation process. Retract height right here, basically what this is your 0 or your Z axis. So how far up your router bit will go and travel before it comes down to make another cut. So the higher you go here, the higher your z-axis is going to go, the higher your router is going to go, and the longer it is going to take to cut something. So I usually like to put this at 5 millimeters for how high my router will actually go travel wise before it goes to the next cut. It will definitely reduce the time it takes to do a job. If you set this to 10 or 15, well, it's going to take a lot longer. So I usually keep it at around 5 just to be safe. All right, let's talk about images here. So there's a couple ways of doing this. I am going to show you one way that I really never use. We're going to go to edit. We're going to go load image, and we'll go to desktop. So maybe I want to do, we'll do a Steeler logo. I'm just going to go open. So basically these are JPEG files, and you can see here, oh, that's really big. We don't want that big. And we're going to go maybe 0.2 and maybe 0.1. 0.1, you can see we can bring that down onto our stock. And now if we wanted to, we could adjust that. Let's bring that back up. We go to edit, we got 0.2. Maybe 0.1, 0.5. There you go, 1.15. All right, so let's bring that up. And right now, you can see that it's on our stock. And what a lot of people might do, especially if you can't get an SVG file, which we'll talk about here in a bit, you can actually trace this. So we can hit OK. And if I wanted to, I can grab my circle right by here, and I can scroll that out. And I can basically trace this item. And we'll go radius, maybe 3.9, apply. And we'll get it to the size that we need to, and we could draw another one over here. I really don't like this option. I mean, I guess it is good if you had a picture of something that you can't find on the internet, it would be okay, and you could create that yourself and make your own toolpath, so that is an option. But I don't use it all that much because basically everything I need I can find an image online, and I'll show you a better way of actually doing this. That is just to show you what that does in case you were wondering. So let's go back here. I actually had to X out of that, so let's hit my 5 millimeters again. And again, you can switch back and forth between the two. So basically, we set everything up that we needed when it comes to the 10 by 10, you know, the height, the width, the stock. If I wanted to go a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, I would just adjust that decimal, you know, what type of material I wanted, the machine that I was using, the retract height. That's all you're going to do in this area here. So we'll just hit OK. And now we have set up our material. So that is for your material right here. The next thing we are going to look at is the design. And that is where these come in. Pretty cool stuff you can do on this. I'll show you that here or right now. So maybe I wanted to make something here. Maybe it had to do with a circle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on my mouse, and I'm basically going to drag this here in the middle somewhere, and I'm just going to click it with the left clicker. I'm going to scroll it out, and if I wanted to, what I could do is I'll just come over here, and since the 10 by 10, we'll make it 5 inches, and that will bring us to every corner that we want. Now, if you can't line it up, the one thing I don't like about this that I can't find, and maybe somebody else has an option for this, when you have something by itself, you can't line it up perfectly to the stock that you are cutting. You know, there's an align button, which I'll show you here in a bit, but it's just hard to do. I guess maybe if I put a 5 and a 5 here, you can hit apply and it'll do it, but there's really no, you know, just scroll a line and then do it, but you could do it this way. But if I want to, I can just use my scroll here on the mouse and I can line it up to where I want it, and I can really zoom it in. And now you can see it's perfect. So if I wanted to make a clock per se, I had that perfect circle, and it would cut out right around the board. I'm really not wasting anything. Again, if I went to maybe 4, I can just hit apply and it'll bring it back down. But you know, if you don't want to waste anything, just bring this back up to a 5, hit apply, and then there you go. So that would be how you would align it doing that. But say if I wanted a text, I could hit text right here. You can see that pops up by itself. And now what I'm going to do is I want to write in my text, and you have a bunch of different text options here, a lot of different fonts. So we can go the bold italic, we can go down here to, let's see here, what do I usually use? I like the Georgia bold. So something like this. And now what I could do is I could up the size on this. I could put it on a maybe 4, hit apply, 4, and there you go. And that'll automatically adjust the height by itself. If I went to 5, hit apply. So you can bring this right here. Now if I didn't want to guess where the middle was, what I could do now is I could take this and grab them both, go to my alignment tools, and right here you could go just like that, and it'll align right into the center. If I wanted to go to the top and the middle, right there, and so on. So that's pretty nice. You got your inside edges, outside edges, and so on. So that's how you would align something perfectly. But to actually change my text, I'm going to double click on this again. I'm going to go subscribe, and then I'll just hit apply. So now you can see that is a little bit too big, so I'm going to have to bring the size down. We'll bring this back to 6. Okay, so we'll just say 6. That'll look good. We'll align this again. Go alignment tools right here, and we should be perfectly aligned. And that's basically all you have for that. You just write your text out and then your circle. And now we have to create what's called a toolpath. But before we do that, let me show you these here real quick and what you can do with those. All right, so before we move on, I show you the toolpaths and how that works and different bits and all that fun stuff. Let's go up to, we're going to go to the design right here, make sure everything's correct there. Yep. Okay, so we're going to get out of there. We're just going to click over here. We don't want to highlight that anymore. We're going to come over here and we're going to draw a little rectangle. And now we just have a rectangle. If I wanted to do a toolpath, that's fine. But if I wanted to add something like a clamp, if I wanted to make a clamp here, this is what I could do. I'm just going to X out of this again, or just basically click somewhere off that page. I'm going to get a circle and I'm going to bring this right over here. And what's cool about this now is that I could put this right here, and maybe I want to make that a little bit smaller, so I'll bring the radius down to 4 inches. And so that's basically all we had to do. Now, the one thing I will tell you is when you're trying to adjust, if I scroll this out, it's hard to get this lined up perfectly. So we can either use our alignment tools and hit the alignment, or if you scroll in very far, it actually gives you a lot more control. So I'm just right clicking this and then dragging this around, and it will align to where I need it to be. I actually need to make this rectangle a little bit wider to line up with that circle. So let me do that now. We're going to bring this here. We're going to hit done. We're going to go back to our design, and we are choosing our rectangle. The width I want, we're just going to go maybe 4 inches long and maybe 2 inches in height, and I think that should be pretty good. And then we're going to match our circle here. We are going to make this probably a 6. Way too big. Let's go 3. Go half the size. 2, apply. Ay. Let's go to 1. Apply. There you go. It's a little bit better. So let's go 1.1. Let's see where that brings us. A little bit too big. Let's go 1.01. And what's hard about this is that once you have this size, you can't just stretch and pull, and I don't like that. Still need that a little bit bigger, so let's make this a 2, 0. Go apply. 6, 0. Yeah, it's a little bit better. I'm not real fond of not being able to just take that circle and make it the size you need it to. So I think that should be good. Let's bring it down just a little bit more. 4, 0. Okay, this should be good. And now what we can do is we'll just take this, we'll align it again, Okay, that's good. Okay, we don't want to mess with any of these. So now what we need to do, we're going to hit done. We're going to take these and we're going to grab them. You can see here, if I click this, we turn two objects into one, right? I could still maybe bring this down a little bit smaller, but now you're only going to have one toolpath, whereas you would have two separate toolpaths. So that's pretty cool. If I were to hit apply, great. If I wanted to get out of there, if I made a mistake, I could hit Control Z, and that would bring me right back to where I needed to be. And then over here, I can click this, and you can see it just kind of makes this half moon. We don't want that. So we'll come over and hit Control Z again. And then if I hit this, you can see it sort of takes the shape, right? So the half moon a little bit larger, but you have the edge right here, the straight edge. But we don't want that. We want to turn the two objects into one. So I like this, how you can actually keep that circle, but yet at the same time have that straight edge. So let's Control Z again. We're going to go to this one right here, and now that is our one solid cut, our one toolpath. So that is what those do right there. Now that is basically, I just wanted to show you what those did. And again, you can come over here, you can hit your lines here, and you can draw straight lines. Grab this, straight line, straight line, straight line. And then what I could do is come over here, hit done. And if I wanted to, I could actually move these around. If I didn't like how they went, I can move this here, I can move this here, I can move this here just by playing with these. I can come over here. You can see that gives me another shape to close that off. But yeah, so you can take these and actually realign them to where you want. So if I wanted a triangle or something, or if I wanted just like a square, I could do that. So the more lines that you create, the more you can actually adjust. So that's another option right there. We'll hit unselect. We'll just delete that. We're just going to click on it, hit the delete button. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Same thing here. You got the shapes right here. You know, you can do all of this. So, but that being said, it's pretty basic as well. So what I usually use, the square the most, I will use the circle, and I will use the actual writing the text the most out of everything. All right, so let's get back to where we were before. So we're going to do our toolpath here, and what we're going to do is hit the subscribe, and whatever you click on, that is what you were working on next. All right, let's actually do the outside line first. So if you go to your toolpath, remember we already did the design, we did the stock thickness and all that. We already set that job up. We already know what we're going to cut into, right? The MDF. We're just going to go to toolpath. And now what we need to do is we need to actually create a toolpath. You might actually have to create more than one toolpath depending on what you're going to do. And that is just what we are going to have to do for this. So when you click on your circle here, you're going to create your first toolpath. Now, sometimes you can actually just do a lot of different things with one toolpath or one bit, but you can't do it with this because we're actually going to cut this out. So we can't do a v-carv because a v-carv is great for writing, which I'll show you here in a bit. Texture, I'll be honest with you, I never really use texture. Basically what texture does, if I were to use maybe a ball nose bit, we'll go up to ball, and I'll show you all this stuff here in a second. Don't freak out. We'll just hit OK. Basically, what it's going to do is texture your material. So you might have some writing in here, and then you might have some bumps right throughout there. But I really don't use texture, not too much now anyway. But I hit OK. I'm going to get out of here, and that is going to create that toolpath, but I don't want it. So let's just delete that right now. What we're going to focus on is the circle cutout. So what we're going to do, we're going to get a contour actually. Now you have a couple different options. You have pocket, you have outside right, you have inside left, no offset. Right now you see how this is moving. You see this little blue line? That is actually where it's going to cut. So if I put no offset, it's actually going to cut exactly on that line. If I put inside left, you can see that it will change and it's actually going to cut inside the line. If I hit outside right, which would probably be excuse me, the best for this, it would actually cut this out perfectly on that board. And then if I were to go to pocket, it will actually cut inside everything within those lines you can see here. You can also see that we have a different bit, but we're going to change that and I'll show you all that. So, but what we're going to do, I think we're going to go actually no offset, just so I can show you all. We're going to go no offset, and then we're going to switch the bit, because this right here, we don't want that bit. It's a ball bit. It's good for 3D carving and so on. We're going to go with the bit that they actually sent us with the machine. It's the 201 1/4 inch end mill. So we're going to click on that, and they're going to see a couple different options. Now, I've seen a lot of videos where people say, don't mess with the cutting parameters. Well, guess what? You definitely want to mess with the cutting parameters. If not, your machine is either going to go way too slow for you, it's going to take forever, or you're going to take too much off, because you can see there's already preset feed rates and everything in here, which I'm fine with this right here, but on some of the bits, it's just they're not set up very well. So we're going to show you how to change all those, but let's look at the 201 bit first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click out of this. I'm going to come over to my circle. I'm going to go to the contour, because we don't want the v-carv. V-carv, again, is good for your writing. So the start depth right here, max depth, I'll show you all these, how to set this up, but let's go to our bit first. So we want the 201. This comes with your machine, 250 N bit, this 1/4 inch. Depth per pass, right? So step over, we'll talk about this here in a second. But we do have this set up, right? The 201. We're going to set the speeds automatically. And a lot of people say, don't touch the speeds. Well, you sort of have to touch the speeds. So depth per pass. So how far do we actually want this to go down? Right? So let's hit OK first, and let's go to max depth, right? So basically, you have your 201. If I just hit OK, you're going to see it's a toolpath, right? Toolpath number 2. This is what I'm clicking on, and it's showing the toolpath. So we're going to go toolpath, and we're going to go no offset, just like I was showing you. Instead of pocket, no outside, right? We're not going to do that. We're going to do no offset. How deep do I want to go with this cut? Do I want to cut it out completely, or do I want to only cut down at a certain amount? Now, if you remember, we went back to our right here, and you can see our stock thickness is 3/4 inch. So I want to cut this out completely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my toolpath, and because we already had that set up, I am going to go max depth 3/4 inch. But here's the thing, we have a spoil board down on our machine, and sometimes it might not go all the way down through, so we're going to make it a little bit deeper. Because we have a spoil board, it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to go 7 6. Okay, and we're going to hit OK. So now what that's going to do is we created a toolpath of how deep we wanted it. So let's double click on that again. We're going to go to edit. There's our max depth. If we wanted to start depth, we can maybe do 1/4 inch, even though that's way too much. We can go 0.100, but that's our stop and start depth. So let's go to edit. So here is our set speeds automatically. So depth per pass, this is how far we want it to go down every pass, and you don't want to go crazy with it. I think this is good, the 0.111. I don't have an issue with that. If you want to bring it up higher or lower, that's fine. The step over is basically if you were doing a pocket, okay? If you were doing a pocket cut, that bit will go around, will go around, will go around. If I put step over at a very small rate, say if I had a 1/4 inch bit, but I put 1.3, well, if I were to put a 1/4 inch there, it would take one out and it would move over and then over and then over and over. It's too much. So you want to go about half the, I guess, width of your bit so you can make a nice, clean, smooth cutout. So step over, I'm not very concerned with that because we're just cutting out this circle here. I'll show you the step over here in a bit when we're actually cutting out the letters here. But the speed rate, if you go to spindle speed, don't worry about this. The feed rate, because you can't adjust your spindle speed anyway. The feed rate, 75 inches per minute. So what's nice about that is that you can actually adjust this, right? You can actually bring this down to 50. You can bring it down to 20. You can bring it down to whatever you want. But what's nice is, and I'll show you on the next episode, on the G code right, the Carbide motion, you can actually manually adjust your speeds as long as you have them set up high enough in here. So we'll keep that at 75. Plunge rate, it's fine. I think the plunge rate is okay. We can even bring that up to 25. It's not a big deal. That is how fast your plunge is going to go down and up. But again, you can set that manually once we actually start using the Carbide motion. So I think this is fine. We're going to hit OK. The other thing I will tell you is, you can see down here, edit tabs. What is that? Well, if we go to, let's go to show simulation. So basically what this is doing is it's cutting it out. It is showing us a simulation. Let me click out of this and let me click out of this. This is our MDF. And you can see it's going to go all the way through our board. But what's going to happen is if we continuously cut, once it gets down so far, it's going to take this and it's going to start moving it all around in here and it's going to shoot it out the side, right? Because there's nothing holding that in. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide simulation. We're going to go back to this. We're going to go to our toolpath again. We're going to edit some tabs. So we're going to decide how big we want our tabs. So it's saying tab width 12 millimeter, tab height 3 millimeter. That's fine. Number of tabs, we don't have any, but all I have to do is bring my mouse over, click where I want a tab. So we're going to put one here. We're going to left click, put one right here, left click here, left click here. Now we have 4 tabs. We're going to hit OK. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the toolpath. We're going to hit show simulation. And now we have tabs that we have entered into, let me scroll in on this, into this cut. So now we do not have to worry about this flying out all over the place. So when the router comes around, it's going to come over. Once it starts getting down so far, it's going to come up, come over, step down, and then back around, and that will hold that in. Now again, you can make these as high as you want, as thick as you want, doesn't matter, but I think these are fine for now. So that is your first toolpath. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hide the simulation again. And now what we got to focus on is our second toolpath. And this is going to be the subscribe here. Because as you can see, when we hit the show simulation, it's not showing the subscribe. It's just showing the toolpath that we already set up. So now we got to create the second toolpath. So we're going to hide this. And you don't really want to use the same bit, because if I use the same bit, let's just go subscribe. We're going to hit if I were to hit contour, we already have that 201 in. It's not going to work. You're not going to get those nice crisp lines. So what we're going to do is v-carv. Now we can either use a 90 degree, we can use a 60 degree, you can use whatever you want, but you can see the 201, even though it will do it, it's not going to be very crisp. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit this, and we're going to come over here, and we're going to go down to, we're going to use a 301, which I believe is a 90 degree. And the speed rate here, 15. We'll bump this up to 25 because, again, we can manually change that. So we'll go 25. Plunge rate, we'll go 15. The depth per pass. So we're only going to take one pass because it is a V-bit. It's not that big of a deal. It's going to come in, it's going to swoop, but you can take 2 passes. You can maybe cut this in half, divide it by 2, the 1/4 inch, and then it would take 2 passes. But I think we're fine with just one. So we're just going to hit OK. And now what we have done is we created a second tool pass. So we're just going to hit OK on this. And now we have the two tool pass. We're going to hit show simulation. And you can see now it says subscribe. Now we can go deeper if we wanted to, or not as deep, but I think this is perfect the way it looks right here. Let me scroll that out. There you go. And it's pretty nice. So you can use any bit that you want, really, as long as it fits within the actual letters. Because if you try to use an end mill that's too big, it will not put that blue line in there, and it's not going to carve out. So v-carv bits, great for letters and numbers, maybe some detail work, but that is about it. So let me hide the simulation. You can see those are the blue lines that I'm telling you, right? And if I wanted to, I could come over here and I could hit save G code. We'll do that here in a second. But let me show you one more thing, and we're going to look at the pocket. Okay, so let me click this. You know what, actually before I do that, let me show you this as well. If I wanted to do the letters first, which I'll probably want to do anyway, we're going to go move up, and that'll actually move that up, and I can change the name to this. So I can just probably hit edit operation. Instead of toolpath 3, I'll hit subscribe, hit OK, and then the outside line, I'll just hit edit operation. I'll right click on that, then just click it, and then just put probably line, so I know what is coming up next. So that's the line. There you go. Okay, so we can save that if I wanted to as a G code, and all I'd have to do is send it to the G code, or basically the Carbide motion. Or if I wanted to hit pocket, just let me show you this again here. We'll hit this right here. This is the line. We could change any of this. We could go to pocket if we wanted to. And you can see that that's how that's going around. But we were talking about, let me show you. We'll go to edit. We're talking about the step over. If I were to bring this down or up, so let's bring this up to 200. We'll hit OK. You can see how that bit actually goes out wider, and it'll take less time to actually carve that out. Whereas if I were to go to edit again, and we went to step over, and we went 0.050, hit OK, now it's really going to clean it out. It's going to take a little bit longer, but you can see there won't be anything left. So you will have to pretty much divide your bit, and it will actually carve all of that out. You see that? But you can make it wider, the path, or you can make it not as wide, get a lot closer, and ensures that you have a very clean surface once you're done cleaning that out. So just so you know, that is what these do here. So, but we're not doing that. We're just going to offset. Remember, we already set this up, and we're just going to hit OK. Let's hit show simulation again, and that's it. So now all we have to do is we're going to save the G code. So we're going to hide the simulation. All we're going to do is hit save G code, and then we can go to desktop. Wherever you want to put it, we'll put it in CNC Designs. We'll put in subscribe. We'll save it. And then now all we'll have to do is transfer that into the Carbide motion, which I will do a separate video for that. And then I will also show you how to upload an image on this in a later video. But that is the basic overview of the Carbide Create. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, thumbs up, subscribe, check us out at toolreviewzone.com. We'll be back with more videos soon.